Okay, like I said, I'll continue to add people, invite or allow people in as I'm talking, but I think we should get started. We're a couple minutes after noon. All right, welcome everyone to the meeting. This meeting's being hosted by Build a Fighting NALC, which is a rank and file reform movement made up of members of the National Association of Letter Carriers. My name is Tyler Vassar. I'm a shop steward in NALC Branch 9 in Minneapolis, and I'm a part of the Build a Fighting NALC Coordinating Committee. Like I said, Build a Fighting NALC is a reform movement. It grew out of fighting for open bargaining. It's grown into something much bigger. We're fighting for things like a $30 an hour starting wage with raises for every step of the pay scale, ending mandatory overtime, fighting for the right to strike, things like that. This is our post 2024 NALC National Convention Zoom meeting. We're gonna have two speakers up front. I'm gonna do a quick recap of what happened at the convention, the main takeaways, what were the strengths and weaknesses, what did we win and what was lost, lessons and from that experience. Then Tim Bash will be talking about next steps. How do we put pressure on leadership to follow through on open bargaining? How can we use that effort to build BFN and the reform movement? And then after we speak, we'll open it up for discussion, which I'll explain when we get there. I've had a number of really good discussions and conversations this week with other NELC members who I know will be coming in with plan and had planned some points and on some topics that have been mentioned here. So if you want to be a part of BFN, if you want to know what the next step is for building the reform movement within NELC, this is the right place to be. And so with that, I'll get into a recap of the convention itself. So going into the convention, what was the state of things in the union? The authority of the national leadership was completely tarnished in many ways. It was over 400 days without a contract. No real plan for implementing a contract campaign strategy. There was growing frustration and anger from the membership, feeling of a lack of transparency, a feeling of a lack of accountability. And this is all happening within the context of increased harassment on the workroom floor, around office time, stationary events, unsafe conditions that were pushed throughout a national heat wave this summer, and really no coordinated action or effort from national leadership on how to fight back against this. That's the context it's happening within. And then the backdrop of the Article 10 charges against Renfro, which a majority of the executive council voted to drop all the charges except really a slap on the wrist for the drunk driving charge, which we're going to get into. So that's the context that we had going into the convention. At the convention itself, first thing Monday morning, walking into the convention, you walked in and you saw all the microphones lit up and spinning. My first thought was like, what in the world is going on here? I thought they were malfunctioning. I didn't know what was happening exactly. But then I looked a little closer and I noticed as I went to go to my seat and I was nearby a microphone, every microphone had 2 or 3 delegates at them with CLC shirts on. I thought, okay, it's about to go down. I know what's going on now. We know the story. Article 10 charges were voted down, were brought against President Renfro. They were voted down by a majority of the executive council after a investigation. All of them except for really a minor thing, a slap on the wrist for drunk driving. CLC members moved to appeal that decision to the National Convention. And a week before the convention, Renfro sent a letter to the CLC members stating that based on his interpretation of the NELC Constitution, they were out of order and the appeal would not be heard at the convention. And so first thing Monday morning, there was a fight to overturn that decision. So after an hour or two of opening remarks and all that other stuff, and Renfro's best attempts to ignore all the lit up and spinning microphones on the convention floor and some maneuvering, CLC was finally able to get the appeals brought up and eventually brought it to a vote where the delegates overturned Renfro's opposition. The Article 10 charges were to be heard at the convention by Wednesday at the latest. I mean, this by itself was a huge win. We should be really proud and understand how big of a deal that was. Some retirees in Branch 9 that I'm close to told me this was pretty unprecedented. Like this was the first serious challenge to the authority of the leadership in decades, probably since the 1978 convention. Not everyone probably knows, everyone probably knows now that the delegates voted to uphold the decisions of the executive council. And I think there's a real question that we all had of like, how did this happen? Why did this happen? I want to be clear up front that this is what I'm about to say. A few things I'm about to say are not to be overly critical for no reason. I think we need to develop a culture of a constructive criticism in the reform movement and in our union. And I think that while it was a huge win to get the charges to be heard at the convention, when the charges were read out, I think a better job could have been done to paint the picture for the membership of what had happened, how Renfro's actions and behavior damaged the union and the membership. It came across, unfortunately, I think to a lot of people around me who weren't super in tune, came across as really overly technical, at some points just personal attacks. I don't agree with that, but that's how it was seen by a lot of people. And if there's one thing that gets lost on a really big crowd like that, it's varied and it's nuance. And so that's I think one of the reasons, some of the reasons why the charges weren't overturned. But you compare this to Renfro's rebuttal. He's clearly a good speaker, much as I don't, love to say that. He clearly had gone through the case with a lawyer or like a team of lawyers or something, because it really sounded very polished. It sounded like a defense that like a CEO or a high executive would make in a courtroom. Like it was very polished. He was able to hide behind the arguments that, oh, everyone makes mistakes, and we defend members for issues related to alcoholism all the time, and other excuses, blaming it on the disease of alcoholism. And ultimately, the original decision of the EC was the executive committee was upheld by the delegates. It's unfortunate. I mean, hopefully, I know a lot of people here were delegates and can come in more on that, but there's a number of reasons why that happened, which I'll get into in a second. I want to just talk about open bargaining and the makeup of delegates really quick before I turn it over to Tim. The resolution that in many ways started this whole broader reform movement was obviously going to be a big deal at the convention, the open bargaining resolution, and we were preparing for a big showdown on the convention floor. Just before the convention, the executive committee met and ended up recommending approval on 3 versions of open bargaining with slightly different or watered down language, but which got to the essence of what we were fighting for. Those resolutions were passed by the delegates on Wednesday of the convention. So by Wednesday, in essence, we had won open bargaining. But there's a real question to be asked of, do we continue to fight for the strongest version of open bargaining that had been passed by over 30 branches? So we caucused, we had little meetings in the back of the general session 2 different times throughout the week, and decided as a group, everyone who passed the strongest version of open bargaining, which national leadership was still opposed to, that there was a question: should we withdraw the strongest version of open bargaining and claim victory on our own terms? Or should we still fight for our version of open bargaining, which had some stronger language? And we ultimately decided to fight for our resolution, even though the bulk of it had been passed a few days earlier. And we used our speeches to make the case for open bargaining. How did we win this? What do we need to do now to make sure it's implemented? And even though our version was voted down, it was very instructive to us, because every single person who spoke in favor of open bargaining on the floor was an active carrier, and every single person, this is not an exaggeration, there was 3 or 4 speakers for and 3 or 4 speakers against, every single person who spoke against it was either a current or former business agent. And this showed to the delegates the budding reform movement against the establishment as we fight for the future direction of our union. A similar process happened with the resolution opposing sorting and delivery centers. That was actually a closer vote, so more people voted for that one than the strongest version of open bargaining. On the question of the makeup of delegates, it's clear that most members in NALC are not active. And that's something we are trying to change in BFN, to get members to understand that they, why they need to get involved and how to get them involved. It's not currently, we have a lot of active carriers who are involved in union, who are great, but we need more. That's just a reality. I think we all understand that. If we had more active carriers as delegates, more table 2 carriers, more younger carriers, I think the charges and all those votes would have gone a little differently. I mean, it's just a reality that and this is how it goes, but it's a reality that to sign up to be a delegate for this year's convention, I had to sign up, I think it was last September maybe, or October. And so it's just, if people are just getting involved now, they don't have time to sign up to be a delegate. And these are things that we should all dedicate ourselves to getting more people active in the union. There's been a lot of anger about the role of retirees at the convention. How many retirees were there? Some people, it was a large chunk of people, maybe close to 50%. And anger that they maybe don't understand what it's like to be a table 2 carrier, what it's like to be a carrier at all today. While I understand where this frustration comes from, I think it's misguided. I think the problem isn't that we have a retiree section of the union. The problem is we don't have enough active carriers in the union. The thing is, we need to combine the knowledge and experience of the retirees and the older generation of carriers with the fresh ideas, the energy, the enthusiasm of active carriers in the younger generation. That's how we build the strongest union possible. And I have many retirees in Branch 9 who are a vital resource, who play important roles in the union, who've been crucial to have to discuss out ideas and get their take and experience. And so I think that's a good discussion if people want to come in on stuff with that today. I mean, to me, it just underlined why it's that much more important for us to get more active carriers involved in the union and to be delegates. And then the last two things is build a Fighting NALC and our role at the convention. We had a public meeting with 130 people in attendance. We learned a good lesson. Don't do a public meeting at 7 p.m. after a full day of activity. We had a lot of people who wanted to come who ended up just saying, I got back to the hotel and I just couldn't get out of bed. I was so tired. We'll do it earlier in the day at the LA convention, but it was still a good turnout, good discussion. We had open bargaining pins. We handed out all 1,000 of them. We probably could have printed more. We had over 3,000 BFN flyers with our program and other information on there that we handed out. And we met dozens and dozens and dozens of NALC members who want to join BFN, who want to reform NALC. And I'll just say this was just the beginning. For many of us, this was our first national convention. We didn't win absolutely everything we came there to fight for, but we put up a hell of a fight. And we identified people who want to build a reform movement. And we landed some solid blows against the establishment, and we should be proud of what we accomplished. We should draw a balance sheet of our strengths and our weaknesses so that we can learn the right lessons and be better prepared next time. So that's what this discussion, I think, should be centered on, not looking into the past just to dwell on it, but to learn the right lessons and discuss the way forward for BFN, the reform movement, our union. But before we open it up for that discussion, we're going to hear from Tim Bash about some concrete next steps we can take to build BFN, put pressure on leadership to follow through on what was passed at the convention 3 weeks ago, and some other relevant information. So I'm going to give it over to Tim, and he's going to bring that in, and then we'll open it up for discussion. So go ahead, Tim.
All right. Hey, everybody. Once again, my name is Tim Bash. I'm just a rank and file member of Branch 9 in Minneapolis. I'll be taking track of who wants to speak and lining everything that up. So please wait till I'm done speaking. But after that, you can message me and let me know, and I'll put you on the list to speak. I'm going to talk a little bit about what we are asking people to do. So here we go. Since starting these Zoom meetings, we've met over 2,000 NALC members through organizing for open bargaining and from the convention who want to be involved with BFN. We have won some aspects of open bargaining, and now we need to push leadership to follow through on that. And we want to give people some next action steps to get there. In Branch 9, we will be bringing forward a motion to send an open letter to President Renfro, highlighting the convention resolutions on open bargaining that the council recommended for approval and that the delegates voted to approve. This letter would call on him and the executive council to organize a serious contract campaign highlighting the strongest language in the resolutions, that they should give us substantive updates, and that we should organize a coordinated national day of action where we have contract rallies in every city or region. This would be important before either going into a tentative agreement vote to pull the membership behind a vote, either yes or no on that tentative agreement, or to go into arbitration in a position of strength, showing the arbitrator that the membership is pissed off and needs a strong contract. We want to do this because on the one hand, we want to have the strongest and most coordinated approach to rallies, and that's something that National has the ability and resources to do. And because we want to put the pressure on national leadership to follow through with what was passed by the delegation at the convention. If they don't follow through, we will have given them a chance to do right by the membership. However, if they do not, then we will need to discuss the likelihood of BFN organizing and coordinating contract rallies in as many branches as we can this fall. The second thing that we will be launching is an online petition calling on national leadership to organize that National Day of Action for contract rallies. And thirdly, we're asking people to share a petition already created by rank and file carriers in Portland. This petition is a pledge to vote no on a weak contract, specifically any contract that doesn't include an all-career workforce, $31 an hour starting wage, and moving all carriers to Table 1. These two petitions allow members at any level to participate and generate discussions on the workroom floor. BFN supporters can bring the petition back to their stations and branches and use it to have conversations with NALC members about open bargaining. what passed at the convention, and why public contract rallies are needed at this stage to push bargaining along and to secure a strong contract. We recognize that not everyone here is in a position to pass a resolution at their branch meetings, but this is a way to start organizing within our membership. Things being what they are, we need to put ourselves in the best position possible for arbitration and give the arbitrator a mandate from the membership for a strong contract. One last thing I wanted to mention, Tyler already brought it up, but it's more of a long-term goal that I wanted to reiterate, which is that we need to have better representation at the convention in LA in 2026. I talked to a number of people at the convention about what their branch bylaws say about becoming a delegate. And the most common one seems to be that you need to attend something like 18 out of 24 meetings over a 2-year period. That starts right now. In August, the next 2 years, when it comes in August in 2026, that 18 out of 24 starts now. If you're in a branch that has less than 100 members, your branch might only be sending branch officers. They might only be sending about 5 people, and that might be all that there is. But if you're in a large branch, we need a full complement of delegates from those large branches. Branch 9, for example, only sent 27 out of a possible 60. But we should really make it a point to pack the house in 2026. Thank you, everybody, for taking time out of your day to be here. I will pass it back to Tyler now.
Okay, thanks, Tim. Yeah, so we're going to open it up for discussion, but there's a few things I forgot to mention actually happening today while this meeting is taking place. The Pasadena branch 2200 is with support from other branches in the LA area is holding a contract rally, actually, calling for a fair contract now, ending mandatory overtime, better pay and working conditions. Vice President and CLC candidate for President James Henry will be speaking, some local politicians, NALC members, including the BFN coordinating committee member Rob Durakjian will be speaking. This is what we need, but what we're trying to do is we need it to happen everywhere at the same time with a coordinated message for maximum unity and strength. And so just to open it up for discussion, Tim, I know, is combing through the chat and getting all those people who want to come in, but I just want to encourage people. What are your takeaways from the convention? What did we succeed with? What could we have done better? What do people think about the next steps? Putting pressure on leadership to follow through with what was passed at the convention. You know, this open letter to Renfro motion will be brought to the next Branch 9 meeting, which is happening on Tuesday. And we want to encourage other people to pass it at their other, general membership meetings over the next weeks and over the next month. What do people think about that? What do people think about using the petition as an organizing tool to start those discussions in your branch, in your station, and using this to build the ideas of the reform movement of BFN and the need to reform NALC? These are all things I think we can discuss. And so with that, we are going to, I know Tim is probably still going through a lot of the people that want to come in. So I'll just go down the line with what we got. First one, Michael Still. Go ahead, Michael. You should be able to unmute yourself.
Hey, how are you? Good to see you, Tyler. Good to see everyone. It's great to meet everyone in person. I think that jumping in with this idea of getting people to vote. I know our local president, Tom Sir, is going to mention some stuff we're working on here at Branch 274 in the Lehigh Valley. I thought the thing that was most resonant among people that aren't necessarily in the reform movements at the convention was the idea that the convention, the people there are the supreme body. We heard that a lot, and that was a really effective way to get everyone wanting to hear the charges, for example. But I think we can jump off that moving forward and really look at these pro-democracy reforms within the NALC. Something that I thought was really interesting was the idea that I think Karif mentioned it on 8 Arbitration the other day. Why don't we have direct voting on resolutions? We vote on, for those of you that weren't there, we don't vote on the resolutions directly, the contract resolutions or the proposal resolutions for constitutional changes or whatnot. We vote on the National Executive Council's recommendation. So that in itself is really undemocratic, right? And that's something that we could all change. We could change the rules to the convention so we would vote directly on resolutions. I think I think sort of approaches like that are going to really resonate with rank and file. People want to be directly involved, and they don't want to have this mediating element where like we're just there to back up the NBAs. You know, with the open bargaining, all the NBAs ran to every, and they were doing this, and I didn't realize that they were doing this the entire convention. They were the first ones up. Our RAAs were running up. Our personal NBA ran up during the DRP discussion about whether or not we should force national arbitration. And he said that our DRTs are completely not backed up, which like in our branch alone, there's 18 cases that have not been heard and are sitting, and some of them are 18 months old, literally from 2023, the first half of the year. So I think the more that we can look at these resolutions to have direct democracy within our union, I think it's really going to speak to people. And one of the ones I think we really should push or get going is the direct voting on resolutions at the convention. I yield my time.
All right, thanks, Michael. I forgot that you did great on time as well. I forgot to mention to people, we got a lot of people that are getting on to speak. And so at about 3 minutes, for right now, we'll keep it at that time. At about 3 minutes, I'm gonna just pop in and say, hey, can you finish your thought? Just finish up in the next 30 seconds or so. Just finish that thought, and just so that we give everyone the ability to speak, who wants to come in. But again, Michael, yeah, you were great. You were actually right around 3 minutes. Also, I want to just say, Michael, they did you dirty on the convention floor. You were supposed to come in and speak on open bargaining several times,
Yeah.
and it was slightly off time, and so then, anyways, really looking forward.
I did that wrong, and I could have. I was going to speak on the amendment to the amendment, but our RAA for our region was right behind me, and I knew he was going to speak against it. So I kind of I blubbered, not completely on purpose, but I knew that if I yielded my time at all, the RAA would come up. So I just tried to do what I could to just stay on the mic because he was going to say some bullshit to pardon my French.
There you go. Well, regardless, we had some good speakers. It would have been nice to hear from Branch 274 on how that rally impacted your branch for the positive, but we'll get them next time. So next up, got a nice list. Daniel Orozco. Daniel, hold on. Let me unmute you. Oh, I don't know. Can't seem to find. Oh, there he is. Okay, Donald. Okay, sorry. I said Daniel. All right, go ahead.
Hi, I was there as well. First convention at all. I come from very, very conservative area, so it was nice to meet people that thought like me for once. Uh, I I mostly just wanted to put forward some critiques, I guess. Mostly that I feel that Jackson kind of burdened us with the way he presented the charges. He focused too much on ad hominem and just attacking character, which gave Renfro an easy way to turn it the crowd to his side by playing the sympathy card. And also he just seemed a bit too nervous, and I just maybe we can get someone who is better at speaking if we want to get into these debates on the floor, because it's unfortunately it's a public setting. People are seeing that. They're the people who do not have a strong opinion one way or another. They're going to be swayed by what they're seeing there, especially if they have no information. And what that ended up being there on the floor was people seeing a guy being attacked, and they didn't understand the full story. And the rebuttal made it seem like, oh, I'm just an alcoholic and I'm sorry. And unfortunately, I mean, we know people. There's plenty of people with alcohol problems, so plenty of sympathy. Very unfortunate, and that losing that first little fight, that first little debate, kind of set the stage for losing the rest of them. Just a thought. I have other concerns, I guess, but otherwise, it's good. Everything's been good. I just think we need to consider the general thoughts of undecided members. Work to, convince them lightly. No need to fight. Getting into a fight is more likely to lose that person. I guess that's it for me for now.
Okay, thank you, Donald. I appreciate that. One thing, let me just read off the list that we have it. And if you hear your name, if you have your hand raised, you can lower it. But if I don't read off your name, that means that you were just lost in the mix, and just try to reach out to Tim again to get on the list to speak. So as it stands right now, we have Greg Donaldson, Jamie Partridge, Brandon P, Marek C, David G, Rodolfo C, Michael B, Ross M, Joshua B, Christopher C, Tom C, Kai H, and James C. I started reading last names, and then I realized that would have been a mouthful, so I just started doing initials. So if you didn't hear your name and you've been wanting to get on, just let Tim know. Otherwise, if you heard your name there, you can lower your hand or rest easy knowing that you will be called on. We're just going down the list. But yeah, everyone's doing good on time so far. Greg Donaldson, go ahead. You're up next.
Right. Okay, good. I'm here. So in terms of, so a couple things to note. First, in terms of the number of delegates who are voting, looking back on the WhatsApp messages from Tyler, it looks like the magic number we would have needed to pass anything just on our own at this past convention would have been about 2,250, 2,300 delegates. Given what Branch 9 has talked about them only sending less than half. If we start adding to that mix, of course, that number is going to go up. We'll probably need about 3,000 delegates on the floor, give or take, just to be able to pass anything that we would want to pass. In terms of the letter, the Branch 9, I'm going to try and get it passed in my branch, of course, but I think I already know what Renfro's response is going to be. And that he'll say that he's sorry, but nothing about the bargaining that he's doing right now. Any information release would be detrimental to the bargaining. And unfortunately, there's just nothing he can do about that right now. And that's as per General Resolution 12, which was passed by the membership in block. Now, should we hold his feet to the fire? Yeah, we should. We should still hold those rallies. And speaking of rallies, I know Jamie Partridge is probably going to talk more in depth, but I'll mention it as it is. On October 1st, the APWU is doing a day of action. We should try and, if nothing else, just be there to support them during it and show support for them as they do it, because they're going to go through the same fight we are right now in our bargaining. Last but not least, and I know the organizing committee is more or less probably working on this, we came into the convention raring to go, and while we had a lot of energy, we suffered against the executive council in terms of organization. They were just better organized than us, and some of them, Manny Peralta specifically, are terrifyingly good public speakers. You listen to Manny, and he makes it what he's talking about sound like your idea, and it's the best idea in the world. He scares me as a speaker. So we'll need to be ready for that and have our points be succinct and quick. Membership doesn't have a lot of patience, is what I noticed at the convention. With that in mind, I yield the rest of my time.
All right, thanks, Greg. Up next, we've got Jamie Partridge. Go ahead, Jamie.
Great. Can you hear me? Yes. All right. Jamie Partridge, Portland, Oregon, retired letter carrier. We've had a rank and file caucus at our branch 80 in our branch 82 since 2019, and I put in the chat the petition that we developed and circulated starting over a year ago to vote no if we don't get a $31 an hour starting wage, and everyone to table 1, and can't remember what the other. Anyway, I put it in the chat, and I think that's the one that Tyler mentioned or Tim mentioned, that we want to circulate, or something like that among members as individuals to be able to sign. And of course, I'm very supportive of the open letter idea, and I'm really want to encourage folks to consider hooking up with their local APWU and join their rallies on Tuesday, October 1st, which are for the right to public comment at the Postal Board of Governors meetings, which have been shut off recently, but also safe staffing, better staffing, better service, and good contract. And I think where possible, we should actually try to develop an agreement with the APWU local, where in our areas, to make it a joint contract rally that, you know, at October 1st, we will probably, I don't know, somebody said that they think that we're going to have a contract in 2 weeks, but in any case, we'll probably still be in the middle of a contract campaign or a vote no campaign or something on October 1st. So in any case, consider, I think, trying to do that. And also wanted to mention that our rank and file caucus voted to join Building and Fighting NALC as a chapter, and would encourage other folks to consider, you know, coming together in, you know, some kind of form in your local areas to build a chapter of Building and Fighting NALC to be able to carry out, you know, these our activities. And finally, just to mention, I also put this in the chat, that Michael Kareff is holding a national rap session on September 8th, and Michael is here on the call, very supportive of Building and Fighting NALC, and also running for president. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Jamie. Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, we've got a bunch of speakers, so I'll just keep moving on down the line. But up next, we've got Brandon Palmer. And again, I want to encourage anyone, like, I think we should really look at this as a discussion space and a space even to debate out things. Like, I don't think we're going to agree on everything or emphasis of things, but if you have ideas or stuff or takeaways from the convention, I encourage people to get on the stack and to speak and raise those ideas here. So up next, we've got Brandon Palmer. Go ahead, Brandon.
Okay, can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great. So again, my name's Brandon. I'm with Branch 72, Concord, New Hampshire. I'm from a small office of about 60. It was my first convention. I was happy to see that the Supreme Body decided to hear the motions. It was discerning to hear that none of them stuck. It seemed like 2-1 for the majority of them. I don't know if I'm getting off track here, but I'm kind of curious to see what everyone's thought is with CLC and BFN. I feel like a CLC win would be a BFN win. And I know that looking to start local chapters, and I feel like a great way to do that would be here, take BFN, endorse, if this is something that we want to do, endorse CLC, take it back to our local offices. And I know they need money, so why not just post, say, hey, donate, but do something fun, get involved, do 50-50 raffles, do yard sales, do tournaments, maybe golf, cornhole, gambling, whatever it is that union likes to do to make it fun. But at the same time, we get numbers out of this. We know who's wants to fall in line with CLC, and we can build off of that. And at the same time, we can hold CLC accountable and say to them, hey, look, you need our help. We need your help. We can raise some money for you guys, but we need to know when you need it, what you're going to use it for, and we just build momentum. We have until 2026. It's a long time. And at the same time, we need to understand that that's a long time to keep motion and energy going. That can be lost. I'm in an office of 60 people. A lot of my carriers don't care about labor stuff. We don't have 22-minute load time. We don't have 60-minute office time. We don't have labor on us for stuff. They're only worried about what they're going to make in this contract. And if they get a $3 raise, which is, you know, bare minimum keeping up with inflation, I think a lot of them are going to be happy with it and vote Renfro just based on that. This is the establishment. I think we need to understand that. I was surprised at this convention of what happened. I thought at least at a minimum one would stick. None of them stuck. 2-1 for the majority of the part. That can still carry through come 2026. If he puts out a good number, I do believe some carriers will fall in line and continue with that just because of salary. I hope I'm not going too far out of line with this, but this is where my thought process is right now. I'm thinking out to the future. That's all I have.
All right, Brandon, thank you. Yeah, that's great. I think I definitely agree with a lot of that. I think that there's right now, I think it's the strongest thing for us to do as BFN is to continue to sort of build out our structures, bring forward this motion as a next step to try to put pressure on national leadership. And then probably we'll have to end up organizing our own rallies, but try to put the pressure on leadership to coordinate and organize these rallies as a next step for people who want to build BFN. But I think it's a strength of ours to remain as an independent grouping right now. That being said, I don't think we should refrain or from the election, but we have 2 years. I think a lot is going to be worked out. I'm kind of hoping for a unity ticket, but I think an endorsement should happen at some point. We'd want that to be more open and democratic process, and hopefully BFN would be in a much more organized position to be able to have that discussion out and work that out. But I definitely agree. I think we should work with anyone in NALC who wants to reform the union on common campaign issues. But yeah, thanks for bringing it up, and that's great. Just to keep it moving down the line, Mara, people are doing pretty good on time. I haven't had to interrupt anyone yet. So Mara, go ahead. You are next. 1 second. There you go, Mara. You should be able to unmute yourself.
Can people hear me? Does that
Yep.
work? Cool. Hi, I'm Mara. Right now I'm in Boston, branch 34, but I'm about to move to Philadelphia in a week. I was at the convention not as a delegate, but just kind of because I heard about it and I'm in Boston. I think this is really like exciting to me to see something like this starting. I think like what I've seen in this meeting is like there's a lot of discussion about like the sort of very nitty gritty of like Renfro and these charges and stuff like that. And I think that's really important. Like we have to sort of have a clear picture of like what's going on, right? And how we approach that. But I do think it's important for us, especially in a big meeting like this, to think about like the sort of bigger picture, like what are we actually trying to accomplish? And I think my worry is sometimes you see like a union reform caucus that ends. I think it's very easy for us to sort of get stuck in like we're just trying to make the union a little bit better, or we're just trying to make even our job a little bit better. And I think what we should all be trying to do, and I think the thing that really excites me about BFN and the thing that really excites me about this movement is that like this could be to me something that is kind of beyond like just a better union or a better better job, right? This could be something where we like take up our power as workers, right? We take up our power as like the people that make society function and like build a better lives for ourselves and our families and the people in our country and the whole world. And so I think to me, right, I am a lot less concerned with like changing, who is the president of the union, though, like it's very clear. I think everyone here would agree that like Renfro's got to go, right? This guy is clearly not, what we need. But I think it's like for BFN, I think Tyler, you've kind of pointed to this and like others have pointed to this, is that what I think we should all try and keep in mind in the back of our head when we're thinking about here is, what we're trying to do. Here's the things we're trying to do. Here's the tactics and strategies we're engaging in. What we're trying to do is like get people to take control of their lives, take control of their jobs, take control of like their day-to-day lives in the way that we don't right now. Right now, we have to go to the like supervisor, and the supervisor kind of tells us what to do. And I feel like we have the power to sort of change that. And so like I think the possibility of BFN, if we all try and keep this in mind, is like mobilizing lots and lots of people, getting people to think of the union and think of their job as like made up of them and not just something where we like, kind of hang out and like it's a service. It's a HR department that's slightly more on your side. That's kind of my 2 cents here, is like I want to think about the bigger picture as we do this. Yeah, check.
All right, Mara, thank you. That's great. I agree. We should see what we're doing as more than just reforming the union a little bit around the edges or just changing the person at the top, but for a deeper transformation. That we're part of a broader labor movement, ultimately fighting for a better world. And it's good to put our actions in the broader context. I definitely agree with that. So up next, we've got Dave Grosskopf. Go ahead. Should be the one.
How are you? Can you hear me?
All right, can hear you. Yep.
Dave Groskopf, president of Branch 3, CLC candidate for trustee. I just want to talk a little bit about what I talked about on Tyler's very first Zoom meeting that he had me on, which was my warning of what we were up against. Okay, the convention, it's basically a pageant, for the NALC leadership and, what they've done over those previous 2 years. What you've got in that room at that point is you've got institutionalists, okay, those are kind of the folks that are supporting whatever that executive council does versus the reform movement. And like many of the people have said here, we've got to get those numbers in that room. And I had a conversation with my former national business agent because on the vote for to overturn Renfro's decision to hear the Article 10 charges at convention, I saw this guy gave me great opportunity. I saw him vote, with the institution. So I went over there to talk to him and I asked him, I said, why are you voting that way, Bill? And Bill said to me, he said, this isn't the place for this, David. And I said to him, I said, Bill, this is the place for this. This is what you need. My point here is you need to make these conventions something, again, where we're addressing, the needs of the membership. And it's not just a pageant for, hey, this is what's gone on for the last 2 years. Everybody claps and everybody looks pretty. To jump on what Tim said about, what to do. He had a lot of my points down, get those local members to branch meetings, read those bylaws, fulfill those requirements to get to LA in 2026. Update your mailing list with NALC headquarters. When you go to vote in 2026, they need to have that proper mailing address. Okay, so that make sure the young lady just said she was moving, right? Let's make sure we all have that updated mailing list so your vote counts, because as you can see, we're going to need every one of them. The other thing that I just learned myself, and I'm on the tail end of the older guy scale compared to you younger folks. I was talking to Tyler about this. You saw those MBAs and those RAs go up there to protect the institution and protect the executive council. Buy yourself a damn train whistle. And when those RAAs and those NBAs are going up to that mic in your region, start yelling that out and start blowing on them train whistles, because they're trying to railroad, that vote at that point. Make it difficult for them. This is not easy for a lot of people. I've talked about it before. You got to get in their face. You got to make it uncomfortable for them. They're not afraid to make it uncomfortable for you. The positives: the national president's not a king. A third of the attendees are reform minded, which means we only need like another 16% as a reform movement, no matter who's in it, to get those things to go our way. Again, you had a bunch of success with resolutions. So, and then you had the ability again to see a bunch of the reform candidates on all sides, whether it was BFN, whether it was CLC, whether it was, Carafe for Prez, you got the opportunity to check all of that stuff out. The other thing I'll talk quickly about, which Greg and Jamie talked about, that APWU October 1st day of action. Absolutely, we should be participating on that. The thing I can tell you, on Wednesday, the APWU headquarters is putting out a more specific plan on what they're going to be doing here in Buffalo. We are already paired up with our APWU representatives, again, like we did the fight over the SNDC and the plant consolidation. So we'll be doing that here in Buffalo. And if BFN or anybody else rolls anything out, obviously we're all in Buffalo. And the last thing I'd like to address that the young gentleman said about CLC and what we do with our money. We are the only organization currently running in this election that has registered as a not-for-profit organization. So we have to report publicly what we are doing with our money. No other candidates, whether that's headquarters or anybody else, is currently doing that. So the CLC is fully transparent on what we are doing with our money, what we have to be doing with our money. And just to give everybody a quick update, we've got our candidates, going all over the country to branch meetings to meet face-to-face with people to see who we are, what our ideas are. And again, like the gentleman said, that takes money. If you could contribute, I know things are tight, I know things are tough, but if you want to meet us, you want to hear our ideas, and you want this reform movement to work, you have to donate that money to the candidate and or the slate. And with that, Tyler, I'll yield the rest of my time, and I thank you, brother.
All right, thanks, Dave. Up next, we've got Rodolfo Concepcion. Go ahead, Rodolfo. You should be able to unmute yourself.
Hi, I am from Guaynabo, Puerto Rico. I talked to you on March about my idea that the BFN should have a structure about have every spokespersons on a list of each branch, have all the branch of the United States, since we're a big company, all to the state. You cannot get your, you have the sign-ins, right? But since we don't have a structure and we want to get the most of the people of the post office, of our union members on the list. So I think we should make structures of all the branches that we have in the States with all the stations and have them like a list, for your spokesperson, like, oh, you could have me here on branch 869. And here in Puerto Rico, we have 2 branches only, but I will try to get somebody on the other branch, on the other side. But I think that's because if we want to win, we need the people united, you understand? And we need to make a structure like they have, because they have their structure. They know which branches they have. This is politics, this is like a campaign. So if you want to get those votes on the meetings, we need to be united and have the structure of all the branches and have a list of which person with their union numbers and phone numbers if they want. Like, if we do that list, it's better and we have a better presentation of the people that are backing you. Actually, I say us, but backing you on the meetings and the conventions. That was something that I talked to you on March. Like, it's good. I love your ideas. I've been with you since from the start, from A to arbitration, and been following you. But I think it's better to do a structure of the BFN and all the branches around the country. That was my idea from the start. I'm sorry. I told you, like, if we had a better structure with all the branches and all the signature, when you went to that convention, you will see, like, I got like 3,000, not only in signatures, you have them by branch and all the country. And we can get more branches and more people to sign in on the resolution for the bargaining union work. That will be all on my part. That I really want to make a structure. I want to win on the next convention about our bargaining union work, and in the election also, because even though that there are many people that Mara said, oh, nobody wants Renfro, but they always do something to take the person that is opposing them out of the elections. That's why I want to make a better structure of the BFN and the CLC. Actually, also, who endorsed the CLC and everything. That will be all.
Thank you, Rodolfo.
Concede. Don't worry.
Yeah. No, thank you for that. I definitely agree. That's the direction we're moving in. Right now, with anger at the lack of a contract at an all-time high, we wanted to give people a next action step, but that is absolutely the direction we're moving in. That's part of the reason why I want to encourage everyone to sign in. Tim just put the sign-in sheet in the chat again. If you're interested in building BFN, we're going to be reaching out to
people for branches, make the branches that are, how many, the stewards, every steward from each branch, have them sign in, and to know which person are with us and which are not. It's better to know that.
No, that's a good point. There's a checkbox in that sign-in sheet that if you're saying that you want to build BFN, and that one of us on the coordinating committee is going to be reaching out and calling people in the next few weeks to do that, and then be able to connect you with people in your area that you can be connected with. So that's the direction we're moving in. I think the best way to shore up those connections for people in different areas, maybe you're the only one, maybe there's 1 or 2 other people that are supportive. What we're trying to do here is to bring forward this motion.
Actually, a
open
coworker
letter
went to me like, oh, there's a BFN. Yeah, come on, I was from March. I've been listening to him, but oh yeah. Well, I told him, like, yeah, I've been following him since before the meeting on February, and you went to arbitration. And I told him, yeah, I know about him. And he was so excited, because he also wants a better bargaining unit work, So
That's
yeah,
great.
you've been
Make
hurt.
sure.
You've been hurt, but I want to make it more aggressive.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's the thing.
Hey, we'll reach
Okay.
out and we'll get that set up. That'll be the next sort of moves after this. Trying to capture this mood around the contract. That's a great idea. Thanks, Rodolfo. So we'll just for the sake of time, I'm sorry I've been bad at keeping people at time, but we'll keep moving it on. Up next we've got Michael B. At this point, our list is pretty full, and so I think we're gonna have to probably stop that unless there's like one or two very short ones. But just for the sake of time, we'll keep moving along. And Michael B, go ahead. You should be able to unmute yourself now.
Can you hear me, Tyler?
Yep.
I'll be very quick. I'm Harrison, New York, branch 137. I was not in Boston, so I'm getting sort of a lot of this information secondhand. But it sounds to me the three big issues are getting the younger people involved, and to me, we have to do something for the CCAs. And I don't think an all-career workforce is quite enough because I don't think it's something tangible for them. I think they're the future, and I think they're the key. And I think we all know they get treated like shit by us, by management. I think they're the lifeblood to making this work. I think Mara and Greg were on the right step. I'm also curious what people think. I heard there were too many retirees voting at the convention, and they don't share. Do they share the same priorities as us? I don't know. I wasn't there, but I'd be curious to see what people think about limiting the number of retirees that can be there or be able to sort of affect the voting in some way. And finally, I don't know how it is in other branches, but I know in my branch, I've approached them about holding the branches on Zoom meetings and starting them later because carriers are out. And a lot of the resistance I've been getting is that it's a sort of us against them. Well, if you're not going to the local meetings, we don't want you. And to me, for this to work, it has to be much more welcoming at the local level. So those are kind of just my thoughts from listening. I yield my time.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks, Michael. We'll keep it moving down. Ross Murray is next. Go ahead, Ross.
Hey, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. Ross Murray, branch 524, Roanoke, Virginia. I was a delegate at the convention. Want to talk about, there was a motion that was discussed by Brother Bobby DeMont at a branch 34. And sorry, my cat's trying to get in the shot. It was about T-COLAs. Basically, give higher cost of living adjustments to those who lived in areas with higher costs of living. And this is nothing new. It's been discussed at multiple conventions. It's always been very contentious because those who live in areas with low cost of living, they don't want to make less money. No one wants to make less money. I think it's something that is relevant to Build a Fighting NALC because there is the goal of having a dignified and sustainable middle-class wage for city letter carriers. So that was discussed. I think, it is important that we do have that because there's the common bootstrapping argument of, if you don't like where you live, then move. But, as a city letter carrier, that's not an easy thing to do. I've done it. I was a part of branch 34 for 7 years in Boston, Massachusetts. I put in the reassigned to Roanoke. It was not easy. I had to grieve it all the way to arbitration. I had to give up my seniority, a great route, and a position as a branch officer. But I think it's something that we should, consider going forward. Make that, some worth discussing. So thank you.
Great. Thanks, Ross. Cool. Keeping it going. We'll have Josh Braille next. Go ahead, Josh.
Hey guys, Josh Brault, branch 1779, Lakeland, Florida. We're the branch that passed resolution 12. Like I told Tyler, we fully supported resolution 14, but I kind of knew in reading that some of the members would have a problem with it, like the executive board had a problem with basically number 3 of the 3 be it resolved. So we didn't get everything we wanted, but we got past the first and second be it resolved that was in resolution 14 and resolution 12. So that says basically that they have to organize rallies, right? They have to organize rallies for every branch, and at the leading up to the start of bargaining, and then while bargaining's going on as necessary. we all can probably agree that it's necessary right now. It's been almost a month. They still haven't done that. The second one, they have to post monthly updates, not just, hey, we're almost there, but, you know, in regards to wages, hours, working conditions, and issues. And they haven't done that yet. They're not in violation of that part because it hasn't been a month, but resolution 22 was also passed at the convention. It wasn't in the booklet. And it says that they have to give us regular updates in the members only section twice a month, basically. I think it's the first and third Tuesday or Thursday. And they're in violation of that. They haven't done that yet. So they, you know, how do we fix this? Karef is having a rap session on the 8th, and we're gonna talk about that there as well. David Groskopf talked about you know, the getting our members to the conventions. Well, there's a couple ways to do that. We need, and I fully support and respect our retired members. I think a lot of them deserve to be there. But just like some of the presidents that have been president for 25, 30 years, you know, that kind of says something to me, because my goal as a president is to find my replacement. It's not to sit in a seat, you know, as the president. I want to develop my members so that they're better than me and they can take over, and then I can help them out, right? So that's one of my issues. But how do we get the younger carriers as delegates? Well, you look in your bylaws and you see what they say. Our bylaws say you just have to have attended 8 out of the last 12 meetings leading up to nominations. So we need to get them to the meetings, and then we need to force an election so that the same people aren't going every time, right? And one of the ways we can do this, I saw it in the chat, hybrid meetings. Well, we've added Zoom meetings into our bylaws. So you can attend our meeting on Zoom. So our branch is probably 100 miles wide. And, you know, you got these younger carriers who they don't, you know, they might not be able to physically get to the meetings, but they can get there by Zoom.
Josh,
So
could you wrap up that thought?
Yep, absolutely. So that's all I was gonna say. Besides, every president that's on here needs to submit an article to the postal record asking where our updates are. And you have to do that by the 6th of next month to get it in the following month. So that's all I got to say. Thanks, guys.
Absolutely. Thanks, Josh. Okay. Let me just read off the list really quick. Up next, we'll have Al, then Ernest, Christopher, Tom, Kai, James, C, Ryan, Don, Cole, Virgilio, Ryan, and Darwin. That's what we've got. And I think that's going to take us all the way to 1:30. So we're just going to keep it pushing. So Al, go ahead. You should be able to unmute yourself now.
Hi, thanks, Tyler.
All right.
Thanks, everyone. My name's Al. I edit a magazine called Labor Notes. Labor Notes, if you don't know, is a network of rank and filers building more fighting and powerful and democratic unions, people like yourself in a variety of industries. It's exciting to see this effort developing. Been following the postal beat in my reporting for a long time, and you know, I think you all are organizing for much needed changes. I just wanted to share a little bit of context that's maybe very familiar to many of you, but maybe also not to some of you, that the idea of a reform movement within a union is, you know, not new or unique to you all, that it's really sort of part of the legacy of how all the great labor fights have happened, you know, in recent memory. And when you look at, for instance, last year, we all saw, you know, a dramatic strike and win in the auto workers, a much more fighting contract campaign than they'd had in the past among the UPS Teamsters. Over the last few years, a number of big strikes and wins by teachers in various big cities around the country. And all of those fights and those wins have had as their backstory a movement like this, a group of members who got together and said, we're going to change the union. We need to, you know, get ready to take greater action. We need, you know, much more member engagement, involvement. Like that's how those things have happened. And, you know, by people like yourselves getting together and getting started. So in part, I just wanted to say that by way of, you know, encouragement and support. And also, I think sometimes the most visible piece of that is the people organizing get the leadership of the union changed. And that was certainly a component of it in the auto workers and the Teamsters, that, you know, they had leadership who were never going to lead a fighting contract campaign, and, you know, change that out, elected people who did. The electing different people itself takes a lot of work. But also changing the leadership is not the only piece or even the biggest piece. And there are certainly also been cases we've seen in different unions where people are so dissatisfied with the leaders that they manage to elect a different leadership, but without really building the organization underlying it, without, you know, sort of, a lot of people just vote differently, but they don't get that much more engaged in the union. And that doesn't put you in that much better of a spot to win a better contract, or to change your union, because it's really not just about having people with a different vision at the top, though I think that is often crucial, but it's insufficient. It's really building the level of organization, meaning like that you're well networked among you and your coworkers, that people are talking to each other about the key issues, that people are practiced taking action, even taking much smaller actions. And I think with a big union like this, it's going to be a while before you're at the place to influence, you know, to change what the outcome of the contract is. But it is not too soon to start taking action together on the like most immediate things that you can win on at the post office level, for instance. So like part of how people have built the strength to change their
Please
union
start
on
to
the
wrap
big
up,
scale.
Al.
Yeah, sorry.
It's okay.
Getting people in practice of taking action together. I know in some post offices around the country that has looked like some of the people on this call, you know, getting together to say we're going to refuse to work mandatory overtime. We're going to bring the mail back when we reach too many hours. We're going to insist on maintaining our breaks, and we'll go together into the break room when they're trying to change that. We're going to build some basic understanding among ourselves about what is too hot look like, and how we're going to keep ourselves safe from the heat when our supervisors are not. So I just want to say I encourage you all to make a part of this effort, not just thinking about the upcoming election in a couple of years, but how do we help each other get those kinds of things going on the local level, so we're really building the troops who are able to carry out a different kind of contract campaign.
That's right. Thank you, Al. It's really good to put this in the broader context. And I want to encourage everyone, honestly, check out Labor Notes. BFN has written a number of articles that they've very nicely published for us, which has gotten the word out a lot. Some of the early articles on open bargaining itself that went sort of viral on letter carrier social media, that was written on Labor Notes website, and definitely check that out. It's a fantastic resource. So thanks, Al, for helping us kind of think about this in the broader context. And we'll keep moving down the line. Ernest, go ahead. You can unmute yourself.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
All right, so I've got a bunch of notes here, but I know we're kind of pressed for time. We've got a lot of people that are on the list after me, so I don't want to step on the toes too much. Quickly right off the bat, what we want to reiterate to everybody is we need more current carriers to get to those meetings that are going to be at your local branches, so that you can become delegates to get to these conventions. The brother that came on earlier, who said he didn't attend the convention, was asking about, I believe his name was Joshua, on why it's important to not have such a disproportionate amount of retirees at the convention. It's not that they're old or they don't give a damn, or that they're just removed from the actual postal service, but the fact of the matter is, when we're voting on resolutions and stuff for a contract, those retirees don't have to deal with the repercussions of what we vote on at those national conventions. So you can get pretty quickly as to why it's not the most important thing in the world to them. One of the things that I got disappointed, because this was my first convention too, when we get there and all of a sudden I get a paper that says, "Hey, Ernest, what day are you going to take off this week?" What are you talking about? You get a day off the week. I thought that day was Saturday. It's only 5 damn days. No, you get a day off during the week so you can go explore. I mean, that's the kind of crap that's the kind of crap that has put our union in the situation that we're in right now. How nobody recognized that this is not a damn vacation, I don't know. But these are the type of things that we need to start looking at for the little nuts and bolts, so that we can actually start to fix this thing, because it's broken. It's very, very, very broken. focus on talking to your fellow carriers that are in your station and start putting out this fervor that if we do not get a significant agreement, as long as it's a tentative agreement, meaning that Renfro and the Postal Service sat down and they agreed on something. If it does not come in line with what Brother Jamie Partridge talked about earlier, we are going to vote no on this contract. I would suggest that you guys start pushing that out to everybody so that we don't end up with some weak tentative agreement and Renfro gets to go out there and pat himself on the back. They look at what kind of great negotiator that I am. And in actuality, it's a shit agreement. Next, my brother Rodolfo down in Puerto Rico was talking about why, BFN doesn't seem to be a little bit more organized than it is right now. We are a very, very young institution and we're still trying to figure out where our supporters are. If you're wanting to have a serious push to start taking over the individual branches, you can do that already. Start formulating a group of stewards, start formulating the other people that are closest to you, man, and start making runs towards those positions and infiltrate your union at the highest level as far as your local is concerned. Our goal right now, as far as the BFN coordinating committee, is to figure out where our supporters are. There may be the majority of carriers in New York and LA, but if we don't have BFN supporters there, it wouldn't make sense to make our largest branches in those two branches right now. So that's going to come with organizing, figure out where our supporters are and how we can start organizing our boundaries for our locality. So we're still working on that.
Could you start to wrap up as well on this thought?
Yeah. I'm trying to breeze through this stuff.
Sorry.
Lastly, man, let's get a we need to start formulating at you guys branches to start sending a letter out to management. Where the hell are we on our negotiations? We got this open resolution or the open bargaining resolution passed. We need to know where are we? Where the hell are we? Where the hell are you? And are you doing your job? We need to know where we are on this negotiation process. We've been waiting for too long, and this idea what always takes this long is just not true. There's a thousand other things we can go over, but like I said, I know there's other people that want their time to speak, and I want to give them their time and be respectful of them. So thank you guys for coming, man, and hopefully we'll talk next time.
All right, thank you, Ernest. Again, I want to encourage people, Tim, if you could put the sign-in sheet again in the chat, just to sign in. This would be the best way. I think there's a lot of good organizational questions coming up. A lot of people interested in passing a motion to put more pressure on leadership, to follow through on what we want at the convention, all this stuff. The best way for you to get that information, the best way for us to be able to reach out to you about starting that chapter based off of all this is to sign in. So again, just encourage everyone to sign in. And that'd be the best way for us to follow up with you and help start to put structures to the momentum and energy and everything that we have going. So up next was Christopher Kane, but I believe he had to leave, so he's not here anymore. So we're going to move on to Tom. Tom, sir, go ahead. Should be able to unmute yourself.
Tyler, can I share screen or no?
I don't think so.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Right, that's all right. So happy Sunday, everybody. My name is Tom Sir. I'm from branch 274, Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. You in our branch and myself, we started analyzing some of the election data from 2022. We thought that was a good place to start to kind of find where people voted, how they voted. So if we take a look at some of the data points, 15.64% of our members voted in that election. So right off the top, we look at different regions throughout the country. Region 1, 9, 15 held 33% of the total votes in the election. So those three regions accounted for 1/3 of the total votes. So we started discussing this locally and we looked at some of our rosters and we noticed that a lot of the addresses for our carriers were not right. So we have a lot of carriers from New York and New Jersey come over to Pennsylvania. So a lot of them are still having their addresses as New Jersey or New York. I'm sure this is happening all across the country. So we started just looking at some of the numbers. We think around 5%, but as high as 10% of our members throughout the country could have the wrong mailing addresses on the NALC website. So why is this big? So the biggest thing is if we extrapolate those numbers out to all our carriers throughout the country, we're talking anywhere from 14,000 to 28,000 votes that are out there. So if we look at the last election, there were a little over 42,000 total votes cast. So that's a huge percentage of those votes. So what can we do to change this? So what we are doing here in the Lehigh Valley is we started a pledge to vote. So we have a form up on Google Forms. The link is in the discussion. The biggest thing here is education to our members. So we need to get this information out to all the members across the country. And we're going to take some steps going forward here in the next few weeks to really amplify that and get that going across the country so that people who could be potential voters, whether for a tentative agreement or the 2026 election, are able to get that ballot and vote. We'll be posting all this online. We're going to do like a social media blitz. And I will be able to put all that stuff out there. We're also working on a few other things as well. So one of our members brought up my last point here. I'll wrap it up, Tyler. We should organize a march on DC in the NALC at the NALC building. That's something that somebody brought to us, and I think it's a hell of an idea. That would take a lot of moving parts with everybody, but it might be something to look forward if we do not have a tentative agreement here in the next month. But I love Greg. I will yield my time. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Tom. I didn't even have to interrupt you. You were under 3 minutes. That's great. Up next, we've got Kai H. Kai, go ahead. Should be able to unmute yourself.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Try to also get a timer going because hi everyone. Kai Heisinga, she her pronouns, local branch 84 in Pittsburgh, PA. I used to be a Starbucks barista in the unionization struggle there. I wasn't able to be at the Boston convention, and it's been really invigorating to hear about the wins and however, limited the wins so far are all, but especially like the upwards momentum coming out of that convention from everyone else who's speaking to it. So yeah, I really wanted to come in on a couple of things. First, like on the public contract rallies, like I really like this idea, and I think it's really important. I'm really excited to hear how the one in LA goes. I think it's important to like use those to like activate rank and file NALC members, rally the public support that is, already something that letter carriers across the country like have generally, and like build that like a public support for the union essentially and for the struggle that the letter carriers are going through. I think it's also like important tactic to put pressure on the bosses. That's exactly how we're going to win, is by leveraging all the pressure we possibly can. And that's why I'm so excited that this rank and file movement in BFN is fighting for the right to strike in particular, because that's going to be essential for future struggles. On the union itself, like I'm 25, I'm young, and I'm still new to the job. I just went through like first introductions pretty recently to the union, and me and my coworkers were absolutely like glad to see that the union's got our backs, especially to protect our jobs. But that really wasn't actually enough to convince everyone that I work with that we needed a union or that we needed to join it and pay dues. I really like the points that Mara was raising earlier. I think we need a union that fights, not just to protect our jobs, but one that fights actively to improve conditions for all carriers and more beyond that. Yeah, I had a question on the CLC, because I know that like the question of a potential endorsement was raised, and I haven't heard if the CLC is putting forward a clear platform of demands, like what all of the CLC candidates are united around and committing to fight for if they're elected. And I think that would be like a crucial piece that I would want to see, and that I think we need to see and discuss before an endorsement. I also really agree with the demands that we're putting forward here in BFN that Tyler listed off at the start. Just last point, overall, like really excited to be here and to join BFN. The labor movement is beginning a resurgence, and it's like such an important time for workers like us to be taking the fight forward and to putting, to lead in that way. I'll stop there. Thanks.
Cool, thanks, Kai. Exactly 3 minutes. Look at that. Again, sorry to be annoying. I know you've all probably signed in many times with us before, but I just want to encourage everyone to sign in again. This allows us to see like who came to what events and all that other good stuff. And really just to reiterate, we will be reaching out at the people that marked that they want to be called and reached out to. In the next few weeks, someone from the coordinating committee will call you, and we'll talk through next steps of the motion and how you can sort of build BFN in your area. So again, if you can just sign in, just to be annoying one last time. And then let me call on next up. We've got James Capone. Go ahead, James. Should be able to unmute yourself.
Hi, thank you for everybody for letting me be here. James Capone, branch 764 in Dedham, Massachusetts. So a lot of what we're talking about is reaching these uninformed carriers, and we have an issue of traditionalist versus reform movement, but there's an unbelievable amount of uninformed, unactivated members that we need to reach, and we need to do it now. APWU is showing us that they're activating and they're moving right away when we've sat and waited. We're waiting for a contract. We've lost over $2,500 in COLAs while waiting for this contract. We have countless issues going on with carriers being assaulted, heat stress, where we're not getting information on either side on how to handle these or what to do. Unions and the labor movement has never succeeded by being quiet, going back to the history of it. In Massachusetts, I'm passing around a petition to call for a rally. And I hope that sending it to our regional director while a national one is going out is going to cut out any roadblocks. So we get approved by them, gets approved by national. As we've seen, they're going to put roadblocks up any way they possibly can. And anybody who's in Massachusetts surrounding areas, please message me and I can give you the information. Back in 2013, we had the 6-day mail rally when they tried to cut down 6-day delivery, and it was hugely successful. Getting our message out there is the most single-handedly important thing in reaching your younger members and getting them activated. They are interested. They want to fight. They don't know how to yet, and they don't feel able to speak up because they're new. We have to give them that ability. There's a meeting coming up September 5th that the USPS is having, a pre-filing meeting in regards to their new movement of mail delivery. I recommend people sign into that and attend it and let your voice be heard, that we're not going to let them slow down mail delivery and affect our customers and the group of people that have trust in us. They have our backs. They just need to know what we need. I believe last contract, only 15-20% of people voted. This is a huge problem. And there are things we can do. There's rallies. Another member had mentioned a call line where this is extreme. And I don't know if we're at that yet. Maybe we are. We are waiting. We have a day where we call national headquarters. Everybody calls demanding information on the contract and an arbitration date. They haven't scheduled arbitration yet. And it's from my understanding, the earliest we can even get into arbitration at this point would be January. We've waited too damn long for this contract. How long is it going to be until we get it? Next July? Next September? Next October? Those carriers need the money now. There's carriers sleeping in their cars. There's carriers that can't afford to live in their areas. And we're seeing all these national unions get what they deserve by fighting for it. And unfortunately, they're holding us back from fighting. And we need to get more activated.
Please wrap up your thought here, James.
That is basically it. Thank you for letting me speak.
All right, thanks, James. That was great. And we can keep moving on. Next, we have C. Moline. C, go ahead. You should be able to mute yourself.
Hey there, my name is C. Moline. I'm a member of Branch 79 and a member of the Building and Fighting NALC Coordinating Committee. I guess I want to quickly just hit a couple topics. When we talk about like how many retirees there are, I think we should really talk about how to build, our rank and file members, right? When we build rank and file members, retirees don't need to attend these things. They're attending because, there aren't enough rank and filers involved, right? I think we should also think about starting to build our next set of resolutions as early as possible, basically like now. Start working on them, send them to state, and once they get passed at state, send them to national, right? Start building that next set so that we have a platform for the next national convention. On the topic of the national convention, like this past one, I really loved the idea that we should just vote on resolutions, not on e-board recommendations. I think that we kind of dropped the ball by not pushing to change the schedule so that the resolutions come earlier in the program. Our big resolution on open bargaining didn't happen until about half the convention was already gone, right? Only about half the convention was able to vote on what 44 branches pass, right? I think we should also become willing and come into it and be willing to cancel the speakers. Just say, no, we don't really need to hear from anybody. We've got work to do. We're here to do work. And I think we should have pushed for that. And maybe next year we should build the energy to push for, if we're doing bullshit, we don't have time for speakers. We've got things we got to do. This is a working convention, right? I'd also like to say I'm building a website currently for building a Fighting NALC. If you have any skills in that, I'd love to I'll put my email in the chat. Hit me up. I'm not the best website maker. I'm sure there's people who are better at it than me. And then also, if you want to build up your branch, think about, reading the book Secrets of a Successful Organizer. I think it really changed the way that I think about how we talk to members. Just really getting into the methodology of organizing. Organizing isn't just handing out a flyer and being like, well, I did my job. It really is a long-term practice where you have to build over time, right? So, we need to learn from the rest of the labor movement, and part of that is reading what the rest of the labor movement read 10 years ago. So anyways, thank you.
All right, thanks, C. Just about exactly 3 minutes. We love that. Thanks for that. That was good. And then up next we got Cole. Cole Billups, go ahead.
Hey everybody. I want to be quick. And it was really touching on when Mara was speaking. She brought up a lot of good points that made me think one of the most successful things or most important things we'll be able to do as a movement is to refrain from personal attacks. Because we're not fighting Brian Renfro, we're not fighting any name, we're fighting for the NALC as a whole. And so it's very important that we focus on how we make the changes at an institutional level versus just changing the person at the top or just changing some name of somebody. And that's really what I have. Just some advice that I've been given by someone I trust who's been around for a very long time that I wanted to share with everyone.
All right, thanks, Cole. I think that's really important for us to keep in mind. I think it's been a lot of focus. There's been a lot of focus on us critiquing the union internally, the lack of transparency, the lack of accountability, the missteps of individual leaders and all this other stuff. And I think that is important. Obviously, we need to do this, but we need to remind ourselves, why are we doing this? Why are we trying to reform the union? It's so that we can then point our fire where it should be, at management, at USPS, the people who are actively trying to, attack our working conditions and our wages and every single day. So we need to get our house in order, so to say. But then I think we have to keep our eye on the prize, which is ultimately creating the union that then can take on and stand up against the attacks of management. So I appreciate you saying that, Cole. We've got just a handful of speakers left. Up next, we've got Virgilio. Go ahead, Virgilio. You should be able to unmute yourself.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Sunday, and thank you for that call. I just want to tell you folks, I don't know if you guys listened to the Majority Report, who had Michael Brooks back in the day, and I love this quote that he said, "Be ruthless with systems and kind to individuals." I think that's a good mantra to be moving forward with. It's like we have to restructure the NALC to be more democratic, as was pointed out earlier. And that the system that we do that is through our resolutions and constitutional amendments that we'll be working towards through 2026. And that work starts from the bottom up. We build our relationships. You try and get people to be more active to come to the branch meetings because, as was pointed out, you need a certain amount of meetings to be in order to become either paid delegates or sometimes even just to be a delegate, but you have to fund yourself. And that's another thing you can do at the local level is maybe start like a fundraiser to get like-minded delegates to go to the national and state conventions. Some of the things that was pointed out we should be doing moving forward, try and get the people involved by signing the petition to vote no on a weak tentative agreement that Jamie Partridge of Branch 82 has pointed forward. write a letter to the national officers directly to the national NALC about implementing the open bargaining resolutions and contract updates, right? That's one thing you can do. And he's supposed to respond to those letters that you send directly to him and maybe send it back to BFN and we can start publishing the responses from Renfro with letters that you send and pass resolutions that, you know, since we're still not going to go to national convention anytime soon, you can send that directly to the national officers and they should be responding to those resolutions, right? So those are the things that we should be thinking about doing moving forward. Building locally, start networking with people locally and regionally. The From A to Arbitration podcast, Discord is a great way to connect with people, learning, you know, who's within your region that you should be, you know, working with. Because Simolina has talked to me about this before, was like, or to us in the coordinating committee before, was, you know, you don't have to like build like a local directly. Like you could start just networking with people within your region because the power becomes more concentrated the higher up you go the chain as a delegate for a state convention, a national convention, and we all see each other there, right, in the national convention. So that's the one thing you can also think about if you feel that it's kind of hard to like network locally, to start thinking about maybe not networking regionally. So I just want to touch base on some of the things you can do moving forward. And good luck to everybody. I mean, I love the Building and Fighting NALC movement, and this is, I feel like, a great way to do things. And it's going to be a long-term project. I keep telling people this locally. I'm going to be here for the next 30 years as a city letter carrier, so I want the best for everybody moving forward. And this is a long-term project that we should be moving forward to. Thank you.
Thanks, Virgilio. Yeah, that was really good. Thanks for everyone for sticking around. We got one speaker left. We had two, but one had to drop out. So one speaker left, Ryan, and then I'm going to say a few things, and then we can get going and enjoy the rest of our afternoons or mornings. So Ryan, you should be able to unmute yourself now, and then after you speak, I'll say a few things, and we'll get out of here. So go ahead, Ryan.
Hey, thanks, Tyler. So Ryan from Branch 34 in Braintree. I love what I'm hearing about steering attention away from individuals. Like I believe there are untold millions of Renfros, untold millions of DeJoys and Trumps and Bidens. I hate to say it, Bernies, who are kind of waiting in the wings to fill in the slots that would be vacated by them if they came to some grisly and fortunate end. So I think it's wonderful to think of things in terms of systems as opposed to individuals to an extent. I wanted to talk on kind of the deceptive power of petitions as an organizing tool, not just the promise of ending up with like a 400-foot long scroll of signatures that you can unroll before a camera crew at a rally. Not just that, but on the floor. It's a great way to open up dialogues. It's a great way to get members involved. Whether that's assembling a crew and passing them out on the clock, that kind of, I found, has the potential to seem like you're passing out notes in class, which is not great. Or if I'm thinking maybe, depending upon the size of your station, of course, but like maybe have people come in a half hour before people clock in, staying outside the entrances and canvassing there. That's kind of a good ask. You're asking people to come out to organize off of work time, which is a step closer to getting people to a union meeting, which is what this is about, right? I think if it's very simple, it's very much within the realm of possibility. And I think that's what's so powerful about BFN, is that it deals in tangible things, tangible issues, tangible actions. In the context of a rally is largely theater, right? There's no reason, I mean, if 5 people turn up to a rally, that's a massive success. That's a beautiful rally. I don't see any reason why these rallies should not be, again, tools for organizing, for mobilizing the membership at large. Thanks, guys.
All right, Ryan, thanks for that. I really like that. I wanted to give a quick update before I say the last few things on the Pasadena branch 2200 rally, which is just now starting. Looks like they've gotten like a pretty good turnout, about 100 people, which is really good. It's not the biggest branch in the LA area, so I think I'm really looking forward to seeing clips from that and some of the speeches. But I like how Ryan ended that off about talking about the petition as an organizing tool, and it was reminding me that there's a lot of stuff that came up here today. We could go a million directions with BFN. I think I agree with almost everything that's been put forward here today in terms of people action steps. But I think coming from BFN itself, I think the biggest things that we can do to build BFN to help you use to use these tools to identify those people in your branch who can be those people that build BFN with you in your branch or in your station. Best thing you can do is bring the motion forward for the open letter to Renfro to pressure leadership to organize contract rallies, and the petition as an organizing tool to start conversations. All this will be sent via email by tomorrow. But just really quickly, I want to read off actually the motion for open bargaining. Excuse me, the motion for the open letter to Renfro that we're going to be bringing forward to Branch 9's general membership meeting this Tuesday, and encourage people to bring that up at their next general membership meetings this coming throughout the month. So I'm just going to read that off. It's one page. It's pretty short. This is the letter that we're going to be proposing and hopefully passing in 2 days. Members of the National Association of Letter Carriers have been working without a new contract for over 450 days. Anger and frustration among the membership are at an all-time high, and our union needs to take action. At the 2024 NELC National Convention, 3 general resolutions on open bargaining were recommended for approval by the Executive Council and passed by the delegates. These resolutions included language calling for national leadership to organize contract rallies and give monthly updates to the membership about contract negotiations. General Resolution 12, which was recommended for approval by the Executive Council and passed by the delegates, has language that includes, quote, hold rallies involving every branch leading up to the formal start of negotiations, highlighting our demands, and throughout a contract campaign when necessary, activating the membership at certain key points in negotiations, and post-monthly bargaining updates on issues, wages, hours, and working conditions, or more frequently as necessary, on the website in the members only section. This shall be non-shareable, end quote. Regular substantive updates and nationally coordinated contract rallies would have tremendously positive impacts on negotiations by building public support for letter carriers' demands and by mobilizing our members behind our program, whether we go into a vote on a tentative agreement or go into arbitration. These actions can channel the anger and frustration that exists among the membership behind something positive and concrete. It has been 3 weeks since this resolution was passed, and we have not heard anything from national leadership about how they are planning to put the will of the membership into action around open bargaining and contract negotiations. The mortgage and rent won't wait. The price at the gas pump won't wait. The grocery bill won't wait. Inflation continues to eat away at our paychecks. Letter carriers need a raise. We are suffering because of the inaction around the contract, and we need action now. We call on President Renfro and the Executive Council to follow through on the open bargaining resolutions that were passed by the delegates to the 2024 NELC National Convention. We need substantive updates about the state of contract negotiations. We need to organize contract rallies for a national day of action, highlighting our key demands and plan to win them. We need to mobilize the greatest source of strength in our union, the membership, to fight and win a strong contract. So that's the letter that we're planning on bringing forward. I'm not under any illusion that Renfro is going to be convinced by just a really good argument, but the point is we have to put the pressure on them to follow through on what was already passed at the convention that they supposedly support, since they recommended approval on it. And then I think what needs to be done is to follow through. Like, when you pass it, send it to me, post it online, get buzz going around it. If they don't respond or plan rallies within a month or so, I think we need to move to organize our own contract rallies and coordinate them as much as possible, and have them be BFN or sort of the reform movement led contract rallies. But the point is we have to put pressure on them first and either push them to do it with their vast resources and ability, or expose them for their lack of action. And so I think that's kind of the next best step for building BFN in your local area. Get together with a handful of people that are supportive of these things, and get people out to the meetings. We've got 3 or 4 PTFs from my station who've never been to a union meeting who are going to be coming to this meeting. That's a place to start. And again, thanks for everyone who signed in. We will be reaching out to you. I or someone else on the coordinating committee will be reaching out to you by phone or to set up a phone call, just to talk through this stuff a little bit more and talk about how you can build in your local area. But this is the next place to start. I want to thank everyone for coming here, and be on the lookout for that email in the next day or so and with this information. So thanks everyone. Solidarity, and this recording will be put on our YouTube channel. Thanks everyone. Bye.